Axle bearing removal. Axle bearings that are on the axle shaft have a collar that has to be removed. Here we're going to start by using a center punch. I'm going to place 2 marks on this axle bearing collar. This particular collar has 2 levels to it. Some of them are single stage. Then we're going to use a small drill and drill a hole down into this collar to weaken it. Make sure to use yourself a tapping lube or a drilling lubrication to keep the drill bit cool and to enhance the drilling.
The trigger's a little hard to use. Doesn't feel like it's variable speed.
Lubrication and drill speed are critical. Now drill the upper one. You don't have to go all the way through to the axle, just down about 3/4 of the way. Now support the collar on a surface that's easy to hammer on. Use a good sharp cold chisel and smack it. It'll take several times to crack the collar. Once the collar cracks, it will be obvious. There we go. Now the bearing can be pressed off using a press and a bearing splitter. Install the bearing splitter underneath the bearing and tighten the nuts. Don't clamp down all the way, but make sure the bearing splitter grabs the bearing in the proper location. Place the axle in the press, making sure to support the bearing splitter where the bolts are supported by the V-blocks. Use care during your alignment to make sure everything is lined up properly before applying pressure to the axle shaft. If necessary, center the ram. Line the ram with the axle shaft as you start to apply pressure to it. Being careful and using your safety goggles because the bearing may split as you're pushing it off. These often take several tons of pressure to release. Here we're applying about 5 tons to get that to move. Finally it releases. Now you can remove the bearing splitter, the bearing, and the collar. After cleaning the axle, you'll be able to install the new bearing using the press. Make sure the retaining collar has been put back onto the axle before you put the bearing on. Inspect your bearing, make sure that there's more than one way it can go. This bearing can go on either way. Place the bearing over the axle shaft and then place the new collar onto the axle shaft. Now, select an adapter that we're going to use to press that collar into place. We're going to push the bearing and the collar on all at one time. Now, place the axle into the press and rest it on the bearing splitter, making sure the bearing splitter rests on the press adapter that we're going to use. Place the forcing button on the axle. Bring the press down and start to apply pressure, making sure everything is lined up properly. As we press the bearing down into place, the collar and the bearing will press on all at one time. Pressure will build. Make sure there's no binding on the bearing, and the retainer also does not bind. When movement is stopped, check the bearing for proper location.